this is where I think the going gets brutal for the company and certainly those who work in it, because this is the point, Mike, halfway through the turnaround where you're going to have to, in your words, let people go. This must be really tough.
It is. It's an emotional moment, and I kind of learned that it's impossible to make an omelet without breaking eggs. And you have to keep that mentality. You also have to look beyond it, and you can't look too much in the moment. You have to do a very difficult and sensitive task. You have to basically take people's dreams and future and destroy them for the gain of the survival of the most. And this is absolutely the lifeboat drill on the 10. Who do we save? We don't have enough lifeboats to save everybody.
Yes, this is where I feel the pursuit of happiness is falling over on itself, isn't it?
No, I have to look to the future happiness. And
tell that to the individual workers.
I have to. But if I don't, everybody goes. So I have to triage, and I have to decide how many realistically can the company afford to have, given the current situation. Now, there is the possibility in the future that we can bring all these people back. These are almost always good people. Very rarely are they scoundrels. Occasionally there's one or two scoundrels, but they're normally all good people. But the choices I have and the choice that I'm placed in is, do I make the hard decisions that no one else has chosen to make? Or do I take the path of least resistance and say nothing can be done? You need to close the company, go back to the bank and say, you need to shut this company down. And you're not only destroying the jobs, which is tough, but you're actually destroying the accumulated effort that people may have put in for the last 50 years to get to the company at this particular point.
How do you break it to people? Do you get them all in a room and say...
No, you do it on an individual basis as much as possible. And what you do is you explain the situation. You're absolutely honest with them and explain the challenges that you are faced with. And they almost become empathetic to the difficulty that you have.
I should imagine they're more stunned than empathetic.
No, they're actually a remarkable level of understanding.
Really?
I've been surprised. Yes, I've been very, very surprised.
I'm surprised to hear you say that.
Yeah, I was surprised when it happened. I mean, I've done it, probably laid off 1,500 people in my career.
How many? Oh, in your whole career?
In my whole career. And I've only had one person that I can remember who got absolutely furious. And most people, if addressed properly, with respect, and the situation explained, and the potential future being there, and you having general sadness. I mean, if you do it with great joy and say, ha ha, I'm going to get rid of you, it's one of the aspects that you have to learn to handle.
Is it the toughest part of the turnaround? It must be.
It is, but it's...
You're equivocating.
Yeah, I don't think it is
well, I guess it depends from whose standpoint.
It's a learned skill. I mean, if you say the toughest part, if you're a doctor and you choose to go into emergency care, you're going to be confronted with the most difficult, traumatic, but you also have the ability to save some of those people.
You also have the ability to separate yourself emotionally from the trauma on the table in front of you.
Yeah, and that's what I kind of do.
Okay.
I mean, I kind of separate myself from it. I'm the conduit. I didn't create the problem. I'm there to produce the solution. The solution requires different. And the reason they're in the problem is because no one has done what I'm doing. So no one's had the courage to do it.
And invariably, when you turn a company around, do you find that in almost all the companies you turn around, people have to go? Because that's your biggest outlay, personnel.
Almost all of them. The only one that I couldn't do that was when I acquired the company in Belgium. And I had to keep everybody because the cost of letting people go in Belgium, it's not like the States where there is no severance. And people often feel that severance, they give people severance because that then assuages their guilt. I'm going to give you a year's severance or 6 months severance. Unfortunately, that's the last thing the company has is cash to give to people who are leaving. You need the cash for the people who are staying and to help the company survive. You can't be handing out cash.
What do the unions have to say about all this? Because they'll be kicking and screaming.
They actually, when you allow, and I had two or three really, not every company has unions. I mean, very few of the small companies have. But the big one that did had the strongest union probably in the country. And I invited their accounting firm for the union to come in and look at the books and go through it one by one with them and explain what the situation was and what was needed. And they're not stupid. They would prefer to have 200 dues-paying members rather than 400, or having zero. Mm-hmm. And so they're remarkably pragmatic. Obviously, in front of the union members, will fight for the last person. But when they're faced with this box canyon, where there's no way out other than taking these hard choices, then I found them to be actually very accommodating and very understanding.
I have to say, I struggled to see, and I touch on it again, where the pursuit of happiness fits into this equation here.
The happiness is the pursuit of happiness. The pursuit of happiness to me is the complete renaissance of a company. Yes, I've got to go through some unhappy moments.
Okay, so it's the long view.
It's the long view. It's not the short term.
I see.
And it's not the pursuit of happiness is the pursuit of happiness. It's not the pursuit to become happy. It's the pursuit of the process. It's in the future.
When you let people go, do you do it in one fell swoop, or do you do it in stages? Because I'd have thought one fell swoop is probably the cleanest way to do it, rather than that threat hanging over those who remain, over their heads.
Yes, you're 100% correct there. You do it all at once, and you get it all behind you, because death by 1,000 cuts is that people will then reorient their jobs so you can't get rid of them, or they make it difficult. And so once you've done it once, you get everybody together and say, that's it. Any future reductions that are needed, we're all going to take a percentage cut of our pay.
Oh, so it's a reduction in salary, but you still keep that core.
You still keep that core people.
So
and if it gets down to a point where you can't accept that, then you have to leave. But we're all going to go down together, and not only that, but I always make the senior executives take a disproportionate percentage because they can afford it more.
Mm-hmm. You refer in your book to a great speech by Henry V in Shakespeare, where they're about to go into Agincourt to fight against the French.
Outnumbered.
And they're outnumbered. And yet he still says, we've got to let people go. I want the best of the best with me. Just talk me through why that speech is so pertinent for you.
Well, because he gives people permission to leave before the battle. And then he tells the people who have the possibility of staying that this battle is going to be so memorable that every day in the future, on this day, St. Crispin's Day, you will remember, and other people will remember, and you will show your scars, and you will show how proud you were to have participated in it. And those people who left will be kind of ashamed. And so...
those that have no choice but to leave, but...
yeah, but I mean, no, at the beginning, some people do have the choice. And they, but I want to see at the manager level who wants to stay, who is looking forward to the fight, who is looking forward to the victory, who's looking forward to the success of the company in the future, because they will be able to tell people, I was there on St. Crispin's Day. I was there fighting the battle. I've now got this exalted position I can look at the company now and looking at it prosper, but I was there during the battle, and I'm proud that I was.
You talk about how our workforce is divided. 20% Marines, 60% ambivalent, and 20% fifth column.
Terrorists.
Right, okay. Let's stick with fifth column. The naysayers.
No, they're outright terrorists sometimes.
So these are people in the company that you just do not want in the company.
Yes.
And they're the ones that will almost certainly go.
They will undermine everything you do. They will try and persuade the ambivalent to come onto their side.
So a lot of the fifth column will go, almost all of them.
Yes,
A fair amount of the ambivalent, because that's just the way it is.
yes,
And the aim is to keep the Marines and to draw the ambivalent into the Marine Corps.
yes, exactly. And they've got nowhere else. They've got no other party to join because you've extricated that section. Yeah. So they look to the Marines, and before they had a choice. They can join the group that complains all the time. We can join the group that thinks the company's going nowhere. And the Marines, it's kind of tough, and they're always in for the fight.
They've just got their head down.
Yeah, they've just their head down. And the Marines are wonderful. I mean, I've had, I remember a wonderful story about in England during the war, there was a regiment called the Gurkhas, and they asked for volunteers to jump from airplanes during the war. And they went through the regiment, and very few signed up. And they were called in by the CEO and said, why have we had so few volunteers? And a few more signed up. And then when it was explained to them they were jumping out of the aircraft with parachutes, they all signed up. So there was still a group that were willing to just jump out of an airplane, and no parachutes involved at all. So I think the Marine mentality is, you want me to jump out of an airplane? I'll do it. And so I've always found this, at least 20% of this extraordinary core, and that is the core that has kept the company alive, to be able to be turned around.
Let's be a bit more cheerful now. We've got our sort of select, as Henry V would say, band of brothers and sisters. Do you find within that band that there are people you thought, my goodness, I never knew they were such a standout person? I read in the book, tell us about this woman called Miriam.
That was an extraordinary story, and you're exactly right. In the Belgium company that I bought, it was very hierarchical. So I had to go through the general manager first. He went through the production manager, he went through the plant manager. And whenever I asked a question, I had a glass office, and I could see this sort of ricocheted effect. Right at the end, the question was posed that I had posed originally to this clerical lady, wonderful young lady called Miriam. And I did that once, and I saw the results coming back. And then I tried it again, and exactly the same thing. And that was the point in time that I realized I had a hidden gem, someone who was doing the work and had all the knowledge.
All these senior people deferred to Miriam.
Deferred to Miriam and got their information from it and pretended it was theirs. And so now I'd found the source of the information. I brought Miriam into my office, gave her a rapid field promotion like in war. She was now gone from a colonel to a general, or actually even from a first lieutenant to a general. And I told her that I wanted her as my production manager. From that month on, we never had a late delivery. And I have this vision in my mind of Miriam, who is 5'2", holding this great big lug up, worker on the shop floor, and holding a finger in his face about why he hadn't started the right job at the right time, and him being absolutely terrified of her because she had the knowledge. She knew that he should have started. And that, when that happened, I started genuinely actively looking for more Miriams. And I've found an extraordinary number of Miriams. They're the people who are actually doing the work. And they're sort of covered by all these layers of management. Yeah. Why do I have these 5 or 6 people above this person who's actually doing the work?
So it's the shake-up.
That was a shake-up, yeah.
You're now trying to corral all your best workers together. You turn that corner where you're now really pushing forward. How do you get that morale solidified? How, do you get them all together to do a mass renovation or to do a big sweep up, physically clear out the factory? What do you do to coalesce all those remaining workers?
Create a common purpose. And there's a Canadian psychologist called Jordan Peterson, and he's a little controversial. He has some controversial ideas. But in his book, he said the first thing you should do for self-help, clean up your room. Mm-hmm. And what I found in companies, the first demonstrative thing that things are changing is to clean up your room.
Tidy up your room.
Tidy up your room.
And you'll feel better for it.
And you'll feel better for it. Mm. and so put a team together. So in the company I bought in Scotland, this was genuinely the Black Hole of Calcutta, and had old equipment, fixtures, furniture, the dreaded pit that I had to clean out. And we had, it looked a complete mess. Old equipment, dangerous equipment, total disregard for the employees, and the bathrooms were filthy. Everything was awful. So I got everybody together. We had 100 employees, and I said to the employees, look, we're going to have a day of planning on Thursday. On Friday, we're going to start. On Saturday and Sunday, you're going to work 10 hours. Anybody doesn't want to can leave right now. So 10 hours on Saturday, 10 hours on Sunday. At the end of Sunday, I'm going to send you home, and you get a taxi and bring your family in, and we'll have a catered dinner. And I want you to show your family what you've done. And this is going to shock them. They will have seen the old company, and I want you to, with pride, show what you've created. And we even had a soccer field. We had a field at the back, and I saw them playing soccer in the yard during their break. I said, why don't we build a soccer field, and why don't we have a soccer team? And starting to bring all the pieces together for a common purpose. And the cleanup was quite extraordinary. We put flowers in the flower bed. We put skylights, brighter. We put new lights in. We cleaned up all the bathrooms. And the strange finding was that the skill set that we had in the 100 employees, we had plumbers, we had carpenters, we had electricians, we had every trade that you could imagine. So when we were assigning tasks, we weren't just assigning it to people, we were assigning it to people who had a skill in that job. And the factory was just absolutely spotless. And on the Monday morning, our major customer, which was Hewlett-Packard, was coming to visit us. And I could see the road that they came up, and I could see from my office, and they drove straight by.
Oh, they didn't recognize the company?
Didn't recognize the company. And then they did a U-turn and came back, and they said, we didn't how come we were here 2 weeks ago, and now the company looks entirely different.
So at this point, the turnaround, you're halfway through the turnaround, you've pivoted. It's looking good from now on, is it?
Well, not only that, but with 100 people and 10 hours a day, so 30 hours, you've got 3,000 hours of work that you can put in. And I got the concept from the Amish.
When build in the barn in a day.
Build a barn in a day.
Yeah.
You just get everybody in with a focus of getting it done, and you can do remarkable things in a very short period of time, constantly reminding people of what it was and what it is. So you have to be a kind of conductor, but you have to have really good communication in showing people that what it was is gone, and what it is better, and what the future is going to be is even better than the present.
We're well into the turnaround. I do want to find out more about the man behind the manual, which is where we'll go in the next podcast. Mike, thanks very much.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you for listening to The Art of the Turnaround. If you love this podcast, please like and subscribe. You can follow the show on Instagram and TikTok at The Art of the Turnaround. You can follow Mike Dunlop on LinkedIn or his website, theartoftheturnaround.com. This podcast was produced by Cadence 3 Studios. Kate Waters was our producer. Alex Dunlop was the story editor. Spencer Matches was the projects editor. April Bricker was our editor-in-chief. Todd Arbuckle designed our show art. Andrew Kindred is our audio engineer. Benjamin Marks composed the music. The Art of the Turnaround is based on the book by Mike Dunlop and hosted by Alex Dunlop.